The Sony ZV-E10 Mark II is the latest addition to Sony's vlogging series of cameras. I wanted to know if it's a good option for travel content, so I took it along to my recent trip to the south of Italy and put it through its paces. This is not solely a technical review, but I want to talk about how well the ZV-E10 performs in practical use and with my usual workflow. I'll be exploring any unexpected hiccups, check for overheating, and will try to answer the question if this camera is right for you. But before we dive in, I want to mention that the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II, along with the new 16 to 50mm kit lens and the FE 11mm f1.8 were generously provided to me by my equipment partner Autofocus. They lent me the gear for 2 weeks to test it during my time in Italy, but I'll be returning it once I'm done with the video. Also, the following parts of the video will be shot with the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II, so you're getting a good impression on the video quality and the image you can expect out of this setup. First, let's talk about the actual camera itself. The camera is impressively small and incredibly lightweight. My main travel camera is the bigger sister of this camera, the Sony ZV-E1, which I always found to be already quite small and lightweight. But the ZV-E10 Mark II shaves off almost another 200 grams and is honestly barely noticeable in the bag. For me, size and weight are always a big concern when it comes to traveling, which makes the ZV-E10 especially appealing if the quality is up to the task. But more on that in a minute. In terms of build quality, the ZV-E10 Mark II feels slightly more plasticky compared to the ZV-E1. It's not that the camera is poorly made, but the lighter materials used make it feel a bit less premium compared to other more expensive Sony models. Despite this, the camera's button layout and design are very similar to other ZV series models. Unfortunately, I'm not the biggest fan of the zoom rocker on any of them and wish there was just an additional command dial, but since I quite like Sony's menu structure and the possibility to map every button with basically any function from the menu, it is still a very easy to use camera. Another welcome addition is the bigger NP-FZ100 battery of the other models that lasts for a long time but also keeps the battery type consistent with other cameras. You get the usual ports you would expect of a small camera, a mic and a headphone jack, as well as Sony's digital hot shoe, which can be used directly with compatible microphones without the need for cables. There's also a small HDMI port and a USB-C port which can be used to charge the battery. But let's now dive into the video quality of the ZV-E10 Mark II. The camera features Sony's 26-megapixel sensor, also found in the A6700 and FX30, delivering detailed, oversampled 4K footage with good rolling shutter performance. There's also the option for 4K 60 FPS with a minor 1.1 times crop or smooth slow motion. And while some might crave higher frame rates like 120 FPS for more dramatic slow motion effects, 60 FPS is more than sufficient for my needs. I use 50 FPS for all of my B-roll because I find it strikes the perfect balance of smooth and yet subtle slow motion effect. I was also really happy with the 4K coming out of this camera, especially since the camera now supports 10-bit color depth, which is a big deal if you want to grade your videos using S-Log3 or S-Cinetone. Dynamic range is excellent with a huge latitude for shadow recovery without introducing too much noise. And speaking of noise, the noise performance is also quite noteworthy, with the APS-C sensor producing clean, usable results up to ISO 6400. Overall, the ZV-E10 Mark II offers high-quality video with useful slow motion options. In terms of image quality, there isn't really anything I would miss from a full-frame camera such as the Sony ZV-E1. And just to touch on that topic, this camera can shoot photos as well. You will get pretty similar results to any 26-megapixel APS-C sensor out there. Just keep in mind that the camera does not have a mechanical shutter, so you might run into problems with rolling shutter artifacts when shooting fast-moving subjects or under artificial light. Personally, I haven't tried the photo mode all that much, but if you're seeking a more versatile hybrid camera for both photo and video, the Sony A6700 might actually be a better choice. That being said, the ZV-E10 Mark II is more than capable enough of handling occasional snapshots. During my time in Italy, I had temperatures ranging from 35 to almost 40 degrees. And with smaller bodies like this quickly raises the question of overheating. Throughout my time there, I mostly recorded 4K at 50 FPS with a mix of short 15 to 13 seconds clips and a few longer ones. And despite the rather intense heat, I never really encountered any overheating warnings. Also during longer recordings like I'm doing right now in my studio space, I haven't seen the temperature indicator pop on. Of course, it is quite possible that you can run into overheating issues if you're looking for really long record times. But from my personal experience, people tend to make more out of this whole overheating topic than it actually is. If you manage the camera sensibly, it should perform reliably even in warmer conditions. Even though the ZV-E10 Mark II lacks Sony's latest AI chip, I was overall really happy with its autofocus performance. Throughout my use, the camera consistently maintained sharp focus without jumping to the background or losing track of the subject. While the more advanced subject detection found in models like the ZV-E1 is more sophisticated, offering earlier and more accurate subject detection in various positions, the difference is only noticeable in a very few specific scenarios. For most practical purposes, the ZV-E10 Mark II's autofocus is more than capable enough. One of the measures by Sony to save on weight, space and price is the lack of IBIS in this camera, which is honestly a mixed bag for me. For vlogging and travel where carrying extra equipment like a tripod or a gimbal might be inconvenient, this can be a serious issue. And while the new kit lens offers at least OSS to help you get rid of those annoying micro jitters, it is only one of very few lenses in Sony's lineup. And also most third-party options don't come with lens-based stabilization. So for everything else you have to rely on the active stabilization mode inherited from the ZV-E1. This is a digital stabilization that forces a heavy crop onto your footage, but also works really well at delivering stable and smooth results. It works well with simple handheld shots and even while walking or vlogging, providing a gimbal-like effect with minimal hassle. My only complaint is that often this will be your only option for smooth footage, and while it is rather effective, you still lose a serious amount of wide angle on all of your lenses when using active stabilization. And yes, there's always the option for stabilizing your footage in post, especially since this camera also records gyro data, which makes for really effective stabilization. But from a user perspective, I don't really see myself or the target audience of this camera using gyro data stabilization on every other clip. For quick audio recording on the go, the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II features a large 3-capsule microphone on top. This intelligent microphone can detect the direction of incoming sound and attempt to filter out background noise. In practice, this works fairly well as long as you're really close to the camera. It is a handy feature if you want to record some sound on the go without purchasing or using external microphones. Personally, I would probably still attach some sort of wireless microphone to the camera when I want to record someone talking to the camera, but I became a big fan of the bigger than usual integrated microphone for recording ambience audio. So here's a small vlog test with the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II, because I wanted to give you an impression how good the internal microphone and the stabilization is in that kind of a scenario. I'm using this on 11mm 1.8 at the moment, wide open. My shutter speed is 1/5000, which is important because with digital stabilization you want to keep your shutter speed higher than usual, because otherwise you get those blurry motion artifacts that come with digital stabilization. Now let's delve into how the ZV-E10 Mark II handles in practice. Its compact form factor and lightweight design make it particularly convenient for travel, even when compared to Sony's smaller full-frame options. This is a significant advantage when you're traveling. The camera also includes some thoughtful features that enhance the shooting experience, such as the tele light and the new vertical shooting menu, which is great for those of us who want to create a lot of vertical content. However, I'd love to see manufacturers go even further by designing a fully vertical menu for that purpose. The kit lens is practical and contributes to the overall compact and light design of the camera. However, I'm not a fan of the power zoom mechanism. It feels rattly and most surprisingly doesn't zoom smoothly. There are noticeable jumps when shifting from wide angle to telephoto. I suspect this is because the lens zooms in and out again when you go through its zoom range. But this just feels weird to me, since the whole point of having a power zoom lens in the first place is to get a smooth zoom action, which this lens clearly doesn't deliver. At least the power zoom motors didn't have any problems with me attaching my Nisi filters. But I feel like many people will seek an upgrade to the kit lens anyways due to its variable and relatively dim aperture. And that's when it gets really complicated. Options like the appealing Sigma 18-50mm f2.8 or Sony's own 16-50mm f2.8 would offer a constant and brighter aperture but lack stabilization. And that instantly puts you in a dilemma, since you will have either to deal with shaky footage or lose out on the wide angle part part of your lenses when using active stabilization. This also applies to almost all primes I would want to pair with this camera, such as the Sigma 1.4s. Alternatively, there is the Tamron 17 to 70mm with vibration compensation, but this is a much larger, heavier lens and somehow negates the benefit of the small camera. So who is this camera for and who should consider buying it? Well, on the video side there is almost nothing to complain about. You get excellent 4K video, decent slow motion capabilities, good dynamic range and serious grading capabilities thanks to the 10-bit color. The body is nice and small and has some unique features like the integrated mic and active stabilization that makes it easy to capture high quality footage without needing extra gear. Also, as a studio or B-cam, this is an excellent choice since I haven't really ran into any overheating issues. The only thing that would personally hold me back from buying this camera is the kind of weird stabilization situation. But if you're okay with using the kit lens or don't mind sacrificing some wide angle range when using active stabilization, this won't be a big issue. However, if you want to avoid dealing with the whole stabilization dilemma or need a more versatile hybrid camera without the same constraints for photography, the A6700 might be a better option. Or if you're looking for a more serious video camera, there's also Sony's FX30. But keep in mind, both options come at a much higher price tag. But let's hear your thoughts on the ZV-E10 Mark II. Are you excited about this camera and do you consider buying it? Or do you already have one and had a different experience than me? Let me know down in the comments and I'll see you in the next one.